Hi, gorgeous. Welcome back to the School of Sensuality. Today I'm joined by Alaska Wolf, who's a beautiful sex, love, and relationships coach. And we dive into the juicy topics behind why we end up in toxic, uncomfortable relationships, how we feel at the end of uncomfortable relationships, the heartache that comes through, plus what we can do to help ourselves and align ourselves with a life that we actually want to wake up to in the morning and not a life that we think we want to live. So come on inside, creating
Amazing.
the mission. That is exactly what we are doing.
I mean, I feel like it.
I would love to open it with, what was the pivotal moment in your life that brought you onto your mission?
Oof. Yeah. It's interesting because you think that the thing that's going to bring you to your mission in life is going to be this flash of inspiration that you have. But actually, for me, it was one of the worst heartbreaks of my life. I was in this relationship with this man that I loved so incredibly much. We had this beautiful relationship that unfortunately was also incredibly toxic when I look back on it. And when that relationship came crashing down, which it did in fantastic style because my mom had died about 6 months previous. It was the middle of COVID. I was in hospital with like a bleeding ulcer from the stress of this relationship. Like it was everything in my life was collapsing at one time. And in the ashes of those experiences, in the ashes of that heartbreak, I came to my knees and found my own healing.
Wow, you've just shared so much in such a short space of time.
It's an intense sounding story, but I think it's like, that's kind of what it is sometimes. Like it really takes those moments where everything is crashing down around you, because otherwise you can just keep going. Like that's what it was in my life. I was somebody that was incredibly powerful. I was successful. I was going out there into the world just like hustling all the time. I could ignore my body. I could ignore my sensations for so long that I wouldn't have ever gotten to the point where I noticed that the life I had built around me was not actually the one that I wanted. And I think it really took, especially for, high achieving women, people that are really out there in the world doing incredible things, it takes a complete collapse of your world to reach a point where you're like, I need to change something because I can't keep doing this anymore. And so that's what it was for me.
Absolutely. And I think that was so in alignment, exactly what you said from my journey as well. But like, what was it through, obviously you shared so many different things. And one thing that you really, that I would love to pick up on is like, you had a stomach ulcer from all the stress that was going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think we know a lot of stress can create physical pain and emotions within the body.
Yep.
And how obviously this was happening to you, what did you do to support yourself through that process?
When I was at the stage in my relationship, so the stomach ulcer came at around 2.5 years into this relationship, I was in a point of my life where I was absolutely completely disconnected from my body. Like I lived from the head up, from the neck up, and that's the only thing I knew. To the point that finding out about this stomach ulcer happened when I was at the doctor to talk about something else. And on the way out the door, I was like, you know what's interesting? I also have been getting really tired recently. Like I am going up the 2 flights of stairs to get to my apartment, and I need to lie down on the floor for 10 minutes when I get up there. I'm walking my dog in the middle of the afternoon, and I'm projectile vomiting for whatever reason. But because I was so used to not paying attention to my body, I actually didn't think that those things were something that I needed to look at. And so when I went into my doctor on the way out the door this day, she said, let's just do some blood tests. Let's see where you are, like in terms of your physical health. And I was at the doctor at around 11 o'clock at night, and at 8 o'clock or 11 o'clock in the morning. And at around 8 o'clock that night, I got a phone call from my doctor after hours saying, you need to go to the emergency room right now. You are bleeding out. Like you are bleeding out. We think you might die. And I actually look back and I have a little bit of emotion when I tell this story, but like in that moment, my first thought was, it's probably not that serious. It's probably not that serious. Maybe I won't go. She called me back an hour later and she was like, you are not at the emergency room yet. You need to get there. Go. And so I was like, okay. But in that moment, I had to like figure out how to get there. I had my dog at home. I was sitting in my apartment. I didn't have so many friends at the time. So I was really like, I felt like I'm going to go to the emergency room and like, what am I going to do? You know what I mean? Like, what if they find out that there's something really wrong? But it was just this this part of me that didn't want to acknowledge the depth of the struggle, the depth of the possibility of the problems inside of my body that were manifesting because of all of the stress of this relationship. And I actually needed to like be told twice to go to the hospital. Got to the hospital and they immediately like checked me and they did all the scopes and the pokes and all of the things. I ended up in hospital for a week. I got a blood transfusion. I had a bleeding ulcer. I had been bleeding out for many weeks or months at that time, and it was just coming out. And I was so capable of ignoring all that because I was somebody that lived in their head and prioritized what I had to do. And it was just the way I lived my life at that moment in time, you know, which is kind of terrifying.
Absolutely. Like you've gone to the brinks of it, to the edges. Yeah. And as I'm listening to this, obviously there's so much emotion coming up as well, but you ended up in this position, ended up in hospital because of a toxic relationship and because of a relationship that led you to that way. And I also know a relationship that I was in, I lost 10 kilos through the relationship. But at the time, like I'm assuming for yourself, just like at the time, I didn't actually know what was really, really happening until it really got to those, okay, I've lost 10 kilos here. Something is going on. But we really do, like you said, live from the shoulders up, live in a way that we are just going through life thinking that we just need to hold on and we need to keep doing the things, but actually when we listen to our body. So obviously you had no other choice. You were lying in hospital. You had no other choice but to listen to your body. Yeah. And for someone listening out there, what can you, for you in your words, describe that was listening to your body meant for you in that moment?
You know what this is how ingrained and entrenched these patterns were. That was not even the thing. Like going into hospital with the bleeding ulcer, I did not come out of that hospital visit and break up with my partner and start listening to my body. Like that was not what happened at all. Like we continued to date. I was still trying to make it work. Like it was all of the things. COVID hit. Like it was a slow decline. And you know what the thing was? I didn't leave him. He left me. And that was the thing. Like I was so down for this relationship. Like there was something really intense inside me that was like not willing, able to let go of this relationship, because I don't know if it was that I just wanted to hold on to it because I thought that this relationship was showing me that I was worthy, that I was lovable, that I was able to belong, that I could have a social circle. Like he was the representation of so many of the things I wanted for me in my life that it became impossible to let go of him. And so holding on to that relationship was something that I was doing, even though it was like, you know, like holding on to a dirt bike or something because I was being tossed around. And that was just the experience of it. But I wanted that relationship so much because it meant for me subconsciously, like none of this was a conscious awareness, that I was a good person, that I was lovable, that I was somebody that could be chosen in this world.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing. And I really like how you said that, be chosen in this world. And I think that is a reason why women, especially for myself as well, going through uncomfortable relationships, wanting to be chosen, but wanting to be chosen in the wrong relationship.
Absolutely.
And you kind of answered it a little bit yourself and like why you wanted to stay in that relationship. But I would love, why do you think women want so much that relationship, and why we put ourselves through losing 10 kilos, why we put ourselves through hospital just for this relationship? What is it within us that you believe the reason behind why we do such a thing?
I think that relationships are this really incredible space where women, first of all, they hold so much conditioning, right? Like we hold so much conditioning that we are supposed to find a relationship, we are supposed to get married, have kids, we're supposed to go on this very specific track that makes us a worthy woman, like that makes us a woman that is worth something in the world, and that we can be seen as society as like somebody that's lovable, like all of the things that I was talking about that were present in my own experience. And I think that conditioning really leads us to hold on to relationships to choose relationships in the first place that are perhaps not our power match, not somebody that's actually good and healthy for us to be in relationship with. But it's also like this inability to let go, because we are such visionaries as well. Like women can see the potential, and they are like, in 4 years' time, when I get through with you, you are going to be the most incredible man, you know? And so we kind of choose relationships often that you are doing a lot of building. And I always used to think it was building with my partner until I looked back and I was really like, I was really building for my partner. I wanted him to ultimately be somebody different than he was. And it was coming from a pure place. Like, I wanted him to be successful. I wanted him to follow his dreams. I wanted him to have all of these things in the world. But it often came at a cost of me. And I was very practiced at that, because a lot of the conditioning also that women hold is to not put themselves first, to be doing for others, to have this very like people pleaser, martyr kind of syndrome, where we are going out into the world, we're saying yes when we mean no, we're doing things we don't actually want to do, we are helping somebody even though it doesn't work for us, you know? And so all of those things are so ingrained. And when you bring that into relationship, all those nuanced little pieces, and seeing somebody that you do actually love in front of you, but that ultimately is not good for you, all of those things come together, and it means you can often be holding onto a relationship that is not serving your best interest, and often is actually dragging you back down.
Yeah, I can so see that now as you're speaking. But like when in my past relationship, in my marriage with Rob, I didn't know that at the time. I knew there was little nuances that were just a bit unhealthy, but it was just like I didn't listen to them. I wasn't listening to the whispers. I was just, obviously, I was married. I didn't look at, this is what you do. You get married and you stay with that person for the rest of your life. Like, you don't, at that time, I didn't think differently. I didn't see differently. And so for who he was in the world, you know, I just wanted to be the housewife, stay at home, you know, puppy feeding around, you know, making everything really happy. And I tried so hard to fit into a box that really, like, I just couldn't in the end. Like, that box just ripped me open sideways into a space, because I was holding myself back from who I really am in this world. Without that experience, I wouldn't be who I am today, and I wouldn't have gone through that journey. But it was really showing like I find it fascinating, and I look back at my younger self. I'm like, what was it that like really pulled me, not wanting to escape? But there's just so much of it. Our relationship was such a fairy tale. But it was also a karmic trauma bond. So at that time, we both mistake the amount of love. We still have so much love now, but the amount of love, because it was a trauma bond. And as we've navigated and both healed ourselves and moved on through, we do see each other differently, and obviously why we've moved on and through the separation. But when I look back, I'm like, this is just like crazy shit. Like what is going on in the world? Totally. But the thing I find fascinating as well is not everyone opens their eyes, or not everyone will allow themselves to see what we are talking about. They may feel it. They may be losing the weight. They may be having stomach ulcers, but they're not actually allowing their true selves to come online or to come on board to support them in that process. And as I'd gone through that part of my journey, when I was able to navigate through the uncomfortability and all that I did, and healed through that, and through the healing journey was not linear, you know, it was and it still obviously continues on through, but going through that, now coming out on the other side, my life is just so evergreen and blossoming and so beautiful, because now I'm shaping my life to me and not trying to fit someone else's life. Because I've done that previously in other relationships, like searching approval, seeking validation, all the wounds and the uncomfortabilities coming out that I didn't really know at the time. It's just because it was my programming, it was my conditioning, this is what I did. But coming out on the other end of that, I'm just like, whoa, like this is just so fascinating. It's why I love working with couples and in the relationship space, just like yourself, because of the depths and the mirroring that is done in relationships that we don't get taught about this in school. You know, it's not mainstream news, which is why I'm bringing it to the School of Sensuality, so we can, for women simply out there who are in relationships feeling that this relationship is not what they want. And if that's your whisper from the universe, if you're in a relationship and you feel that this is not right for you, this is a sign to start looking at yourself and to start working through, okay, what is it that I actually want in life? Absolutely. What type of relationship do I want it to experience? Who do I want to be in that relationship? And how can I bring this forward and create this rather than trying to fit myself? It's like fitting a square peg in a round hole. It's not going to fit. We're just kind of, I don't say wasting time, because we get loads of learnings and lessons over that period, but obviously I had that 3 years of my life, and now in the past three months or 3 weeks, my life has rocketed so much more because I've chosen myself. I didn't choose the relationship, I chose myself. And now from this, I choose myself, my future partner chooses himself, we're individually choosing ourselves, and then we choose the relationship. Rather we get taught as we go through life, then you need to choose the relationship, when it really comes back to self.
It always comes back to self, but I think that so often we are not taught any of that, like at all. We are taught that we should center the relationship, we should make sure that our partner is always happy, we should do whatever it takes to make it work. And those ideals can be beautiful. Like, I think a lot of women have a desire to have long-lasting, loyal, epic love, but we slowly trickle down to accept like a partner that's still there, or, you know, all of these things where you're just kind of like, you are making your relationship fit the square peg, you know, because it's just like, we want it so bad. We want that love so bad that we're willing to accept whatever is happening, even though it's not the love that we truly want. But I think there's also this part of like learning to center yourself, you know? And so when I was growing up, I know that I didn't have very many examples of people, women particularly, centering themselves, like looking at their own lives, living for themselves, figuring out what they wanted, moving forward with their lives in a way that is like for them, by design, because of what they desire in life. And even though in my life you would have thought that I was doing that, I think the subconscious that was happening inside of my relationship, which is why I find relationships so fascinating to work with and heartbreak so fascinating to work with, is that it really reveals all of these deeper layers of what's truly happening for you, of the way you truly see yourself, of the beliefs you hold about yourself, the thoughts that are going through your mind, the identity that you're holding out there in the world. And I think it's really getting to a point in your healing journey, which is going to take time, that you actually get to a point where you can start to center yourself and start to actually follow those nudges of desire, inspiration that you see out in the world, when you see maybe other women that are living lives where they fully center themselves, lives where they're powerful, lives where they're in their sexuality and sensuality, lives where they actually feel fully, I don't know if I can swear, alive. Yeah,
it's fascinating in saying that. And I look back at kind of my relationship, and like we said, like at the time, I didn't know that this is what I was experiencing. Totally. It was only afterwards. And I look back and it's like, how would I have known in those moments? But this is where, you know, ex-husbands, ex-relationships is not necessarily bad. And I really want to put it out there, even though we've had a past relationship and I've had a past marriage, it wasn't bad in a sense that it needs to be hatred and uncomfortability. It was so that we could learn the lessons that we needed to move on through. Because one of the biggest ones I look back at, like, who consciously in their right mind would have intentionally married a porn star, knowing a porn star is going to have sex with other women? Like, I look back at myself now and it's just like, at the time I was so in love, the fairy tale, the karmic trauma bond, and we did have such an amazing relationship, but at the time I didn't know. And obviously I've gone along, because I remember before I met Rob, I said to myself, I was like, I just want a partner who lets girls come into the relationship, you know, because I enjoy playing sensuality with girls and women as well. And so I got that, but on a 10x level.
The universe gives you what you need, not what you want.
And so now I look back and it's like, okay, yeah, the universe has given me what I need. And because I had no self-worth, I had no lack of confidence within myself. So everything that I was feeling, I didn't have that confidence to speak up, or I just didn't have that self-love or that backing myself, or my own backbone to actually speak up and to voice the pain that I was feeling. I just went along with it because I didn't know how to communicate. I didn't know how to speak up. I didn't know how to say, look, I feel really uncomfortable with this, unless I just let myself feel it, and I just lost 10 kilos instead. And now I look back, I'm like, okay, that's why I had that such beautiful relationship with Rob, because it taught me all the lessons that I needed to heal, to move through, to come now into, you know, healthy, conscious relationships, because at the time, look, I didn't learn any of this. I was just living my life and going and having fun about it, you know, but now I've learned from that. And that's something I really want to bring more into the mainstream, into the media. It's like, we can be in a relationship, and if it doesn't work, then that's okay. It doesn't, like, I think there's a lot of shame around breakups and especially divorces, but we are in a relationship for that time period, and we have our time on earth together for as long as it needs to serve us. And if that is a lifetime, that's beautiful. But if not, if that's just a short period, maybe it's 6 months or 6 years, what lessons and experiences we get out of that is going to help us and evolve us move on forward, over holding on to, like, it was so his fault, he made me do this, he put me in hospital, he did all of this, and we're projecting and blaming when we're never going to heal, we're never going to move on, and we're going to keep repeating the same patterns in relationships until we start listening to those whispers of our body and listening to, like, oh, I feel a little bit anxious today, or I feel like I'm walking on eggshells, and, like, is this how I want to feel? And I know I have been to the down the dirt road on the dirt bike within relationships, and there is no chance I will ever be doing that again, because now I am so in tune with my body. I really can listen to those whispers that come through, and in any type of scenario, whether that be, you know, in business or work, or even, you know, when I'm going having it in a restaurant, the communication and the ability that I have now to speak up is something I will never let myself go through again, because I've been through the dirt road.
Absolutely.
And now it's like, well, I love bringing this to the mainstream, because it is such a shameful subject to hide on. You know, obviously back then it was a lot for me to go live in such a relationship that was in the public eye, but I guess, like, now I know why I've gone through that, so I can help other women.
Totally.
And just to openly share my journey, because, you know, it is what it is. I can't do anything about it, and that's the experience that we lived. And that's also, you know, the same for you as you do within your work of sex, love, and relationships too.
For sure. I'm curious about something. Did you not know he was a porn star at all?
No, I
or
did.
You knew he was a porn star, but you didn't. What did you know?
I just guess I wasn't conscious of what I was doing.
Like, you, like, heard him, and then you were like, I can deal with that.
But it didn't really, like, it wasn't really so apparent. Like, you know, obviously I logically knew that he was going to have sex with other women, but in my body, I wasn't really feeling it.
100%.
So, like, you know, it's kind of the embodiment of, like, this is actually a thing. And don't get me wrong, at that time we had so much fun. Like, that chapter of my life, it was just like, it was everyone's dream, but a lot of people's dreams, right? But that was the journey that opened me onto this path. Now, you know, without him, without that path, I wouldn't be here. But at the time, I think what happened is, because I had a threesome experience with a married couple, I'd already had that experience, and I thought, okay, well, this is normal. And so I just I'd had that would be in my vortex, and I just fell into that, but I didn't really know the feelings that were going to come up with it. And at the time, obviously, we moved on through, and I fell into that life as well. And that's just the life we lived, and I was living it, and it was great. It was only after the relationship and after that that it all happened, I looked back and think, yeah, like, Katie, wow, what a path. Like, what a path. But the mirroring that we have had and done to each other. And obviously, we've spoken this about a little bit, and this is what you work with your clients on Heartbreak. And yes, even though the relationship was so beautiful and it was also very wholesome, but also very wild as well, I didn't see, because we ended on such a happy terms, I didn't really feel as much heartbreak until later on, when I was on my healing journey. And because obviously logically I knew we'd separated, logically I knew we were on different paths, but I didn't feel it in my body until obviously I went through that path of feeling. And then when the feelings were coming up, the feeling that, okay, look, we are separating right now is coming through. That's when the heartache activated within my body. It was actually during an ayahuasca ceremony, and I was basically giving birth to a daughter with Rob, and that image and that vision that was going through in that journey, in that ceremony, was taken out of my heart. And that was my heartbreak, but that was a year later. Yeah. That was a year later, after we'd actually separated, because I think within me, you know, I was holding on to we're still married. I was holding on to the possibilities and the potential that we're going to get back together. I was like, yeah, he's going to start porn soon. You know, we're going to carry on happy ever after.
Off into the little, like, picket fence.
Yeah. And I was just really hoping for that. And he did afterwards. And we're best friends. We're great friends now. But obviously at the time, my body didn't actually feel And then with this whole journey that I've been on, I've learned how to feel.
Yeah.
And that's what the whole of School of Sensuality is about, is actually really feeling, because we go through a life and we're literally, you know, shoulders up, and we're in our heads.
Yeah.
And we're in our heads thinking, oh yeah, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. When we actually drop into the body and we start feeling, that's when all like the pain and the uncomfortability comes up. And I think, why would anyone want to feel into their bodies if they're just going to go through pain and uncomfortability? I think it's a big one out there. But beyond the discomfort, the uncomfortability is where the growth lies.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to pick up on a couple things you said. And so the first thing you said is like, I don't know why I was attracted to him, or like this, you know, you knew about his porn star life. But I actually like see over and over and over with clients, and I recognize it in my own like life, is that actually the thing that draws you to a specific partner out of any single person you could have chosen in the whole entire world, you chose Rob, who was a porn star, right? And so looking back at your life, looking back at the relationships from your past, it's like there's probably a little nugget somewhere that is like a little wound that he is the exact match for, because that's why we end up with certain people. I was telling you earlier that the reason, you know, one of the big problems in my relationship, or struggles in my eternal struggles in my relationship, was that he wanted an open relationship. And for me, I'm an extremely monogamous person. Like, I love so hard. I want a relationship that's like epic and loyal and power match. We're building together. We're having businesses together. Like, I want it all. And I chose somebody that wanted an open relationship, where he wanted to have, you know, sex with other people, his friends, just to be very casual. And actually, when I looked back at my own life, there was a moment when I was around, I'm going to say 8 or 9 years old, where I was looking through my mom's bag on the way to the hairdressers, and I found condoms. And my mom and dad had been married for 20 years, 30 years. So I just knew in my body in that moment there was something very wrong with that. And I confronted my mom, and I was like, what the are these? Like, what is this? And she confessed to me that she was having an affair, which to me broke my heart. And it felt so dangerous to my family, right? Because if my father found out, or what was going to happen if my family found out. And so I actually don't have a living memory that lives in my brain of what happened next, but I know that my family did find out. My dad did find out. We shortly after moved from Canada to Ireland. And like, this specific wound for me, if you actually extrapolate and think about what it was, is that inside of a love relationship, sex is going to be the thing that's a threat to that love relationship. And so when I went out into the world, the subconscious brain was looking, my somatic body as well, was looking for somebody that was a match for that, that would give me those exact same feelings of like, you're not safe here, sex is a threat, you've got to be careful, you've got to be hyper vigilant, all of these things. And I really nailed it. I picked the perfect person. And that's the thing, like, there's so often these little nuggets that we are going out into the world looking for, because we want that resonance in our body, because we would rather be in a familiar hell than an unfamiliar heaven. And so this is why the healing part is so important, because like, you actually start to explore, like, where is the resonance? What is my body looking for? What is my subconscious looking for? And starting to recognize those patterns actually allows you to have the awareness to free yourself from them when you're willing to do the healing work after the awareness, right?
And that's exactly, thank you so much for sharing. And I can definitely resonate in that, because before Rob, I was very vanilla. I was very prude. You know, I had one experience with a couple, and I feel that that's why I picked him, because of the lessons that I needed to learn, because I hadn't really gone through any like hardship. I'd like kind of grew up in cotton wool, as they say, you know, like in candy floss. So I hadn't had experience of like pain and depth too much until like my late 20s. And that was the experience that cracked me open, and that was the experience that brought me who I am today. And it was through that path, that's where my passion and my desires for sexuality, sensuality came, because I just like went from a kindergarten teacher, and I just jumped into the deep end overnight to become around porn stars, swingers, tantra community, and all of that. And I was mirrored it all. So I was mirrored every part of me in the most vulnerable vulnerable way overnight. And so it was such a fast, quick, deep dive into my own sexuality, into my own body. As well in studying, I was also living the physical experiences. But I wouldn't have done all of this. I wouldn't have created the School of Sensuality. I wouldn't be helping couples out there reignite their sex life. I wouldn't be helping women, you know, be able to find their clitoris or to know even what the labia is if I hadn't have had all those experiences that I had through the pain and the uncomfortability with Rob. And that's why I look back and it's just like, I have no remorse. I'm so happy with the experience and everything that we lived through because that's who made me who I am today.
Yeah.
Of course, it was hard and stuff at the time, but moving through that and now the work that I do in the world and who I am has so much more value and depth to anything that has the uncomfortability that I've gone through because of who I am today.
Totally. And I also think there's something so important when you are going out there into the world looking for a mentor, when you're looking for somebody to guide you on your path of healing and stepping into yourself and becoming the woman you know you're meant to be. Actually having a guide that's walked that path before you is so important because that's where the embodiment comes from. That's where the lived somatic experience comes from. And so often, because of the world that we live in, we are doing it like, oh, textbook, and like, I'll read a book and then it'll be, but I don't want it somebody that's read a textbook. I want somebody that has been in the dirt.
And I think that's so good in the work that we do because we've lived the experience. We have lived heartbreak. We have lived lack of self-worth. We have lived the no confidence and all that we have. So yes, we have the textbook studies, but we also have the lived experience. And I think that's what makes I know my work and your work, it makes it so different. Because I've had clients that have come to me who have been to potentially a gynecologist, and the gynecologist has said like, he said that we couldn't have a cervical orgasm because a textbook has been read. And I'm just like, wow.
A textbook from 40 years ago.
Right.
That has not been updated
it's
since.
the lack of education that has not been worked on through embodiment. And I actually held a little bit of shame around my story and speaking out so open. Obviously at the time I spoke out so openly, but I held on to a little bit of shame as I went through that journey. Yeah. But now I know like why I went through that and why I speak on it so openly is so people can relate to me because it's so much more comfortable for them to be like, hey, do you know this is happening in my relationship and my partner's doing that, because they know I understand. Totally. They know I get it. And it's not like going in, you know, into like a counselor's room and them just, oh, it's okay. And your partner really shouldn't be doing that. Sure. Look, we all need psychologists, counselors at different stages in our life. I had that one phase. But I think if we really want to do the work, you really have to go into your body and do somatic healing to come out the other side. Otherwise, you're just going to keep repeating those same patterns. Yeah. And you're the one, like, this is your life. You are doing this to your life. So it's like, why hurt yourself if you could help and heal yourself?
Absolutely. But it's also like, I think sometimes we don't recognize that there's so much on the other side. You know, we're looking backwards and we're like, I want to grip onto this thing. I want to grip onto this relationship. I want to grip onto the past version of myself that I've been being. But we don't actually recognize everything we're giving up on the other side of doing this healing work and coming back down into the body that maybe for your entire life has felt so terrifying to you because it's got layers of shame and numbness and all of these emotions inside that you're like, you've been fighting against seeing and experiencing because it feels so overwhelmingly scary. But actually the journey down into the body is so freeing. Even though it's so terrifying, it's so freeing because actually when you can truly feel what your body is telling you, what your intuition is telling you, what you feel like in certain places or with certain people, then you have the correct information that you truly need to create a life that is aligned for you, where you feel fully whole and you feel like you can do anything and like you can move to Paradise Island in Thailand. And like, you know, the life that I have now, I could never have even imagined it from where I was living in Berlin in this toxic relationship with this bleeding ulcer. Like I could never have even imagined any of it was possible because there was so many elements of my life where I had numbed out because I was just trying to be this like person that was going out into the world and being successful. You know, I was an interior design I had an interior design studio at the time. I was a DJ. I was doing all these other things. And I thought that was what was going to make me happy. But at the end of the day, there was just this like emptiness inside because all of the things the world had told me to be and do and create were not giving me that true fulfillment that I wanted. And now I live such a beautiful life that's so different than the one that I had before, you know, like deeply connected to nature. I've got sisterhood, I've got intimate relationships, I'm really connected to my own body. I can feel those moments of like yes and no, or like I don't like this feeling, I don't want to be here, I need to go home, or whatever it is. And like all that information is actually just giving me the direction that I need to go in my life to be truly fulfilled, to be truly myself, you know? And I think that's what's so incredible about this work. And I think we don't recognize that is what we're giving up when we delay, or we decide that it's maybe not something we want to prioritize in this world.
Definitely. And I like how you said it's like going into those feelings, and it is that fear. But it's just like, you know, we could live a life of uncomfortability and not feeling happy. Or you could spend an hour in a session. I have my School of Sensuality, which is all self-paced. You can choose to fit that time into your day, to create that time, to really feel and to really connect with your body, and to drop into, obviously I teach it through pleasure, drop into your body, maybe for an hour, maybe, you know, for 6 weeks. But then on the other side of that, you will wake up every day feeling happy. Like I am the happiest I have ever been in my life, in this phase of my life. And I've been happy a lot of my life, and I am happy, but it just keeps getting better. And that is simply because I listen to my body. So if my body is feeling a little bit fragile, like I'll talk to it, I'll love it, I'll sit with her and think, okay, what do you need today? Like how can I look after you more, rather than ignoring those feelings and just keep going bulldozing through life, marrying porn stars and all the above, when reality, if I can like, okay, this is what I need, and can I sit with that discomfort a little bit? But then on the other side, the business grows, my community grows, the love grows, my family and everything I do and I am. And that radiates into my clients and everyone who comes into my world, because that is just ultimate, true, pure happiness, love and joy from the bottoms up, not just creating it from the outside, thinking this is okay, what we think we should have. Because like, you know, in my past life, I had a 6-bedroom house, I was making 6 figures, I was married, I had this, like, I had multiple relationships, you know, on the outside I had it all, but like as well you said, I was also missing that part of me, and then going through that uncomfortability. And I think, you know, I'm 32 now, so but we can do this at any age. A lot of people, like I said, I've lived in candy floss and cotton wool all a lot of my life.
Candy floss sounds amazing.
Lived in cotton wool, but now, you know, some people go through this or heartbreak at the age of 15, and then some people it doesn't happen to them until the age of 50. And so I really think it's important not to get caught up on our timelines or wherever we are comparing ourselves to others. Rather, instead of comparing yourself to others, it's about listening to your body and who you are in this lifetime. For anyone listening out there who's this story has resonated with you, doesn't matter how old you are, doesn't matter what country you're living in, you can be anywhere. You just really need to stop being up in the head and start feeling into your body. And I teach all of this and more inside the School of Sensuality, and it's a self-paced way. So if you are a busy student, or, you know, an overworked housewife, or a busy businesswoman, you can do this at any time that you have in your life, but just know that it's going to support you more coming into your sensuality and into your body, so you're not living up here and not living in that unhappiness as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a game changer. I feel like there's something so pivotal in a woman's life when she truly decides that she is going to step down into her body, because that's the source of everything. Like, it's the source of power, it's the source of authenticity, it's the source of creating alignment in your life. And those are such core pieces of having a life that like turns you on and makes you feel amazing in it, you know? And this is not to say that there's not days where there's struggle and challenge, and like we're always on this evolution. But like, if you are truly somebody that wants to step into the next level of your life, where you're not living for other people, where you're not living to fulfill goals that the world has given you, then actually doing this work is such an absolute game changer in your life. It's so powerful.
It absolutely is. And I would love to wrap that up there with actually sharing what the work that you do with women it is. And, you know, maybe this story is resonating. What is the work that you do with women, and where can they find you?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Katie. So the work that I do with women is I work with women to guide them through heartbreak as a portal of their highest timeline. So it means that I ultimately work with women who are really high achieving in their life. They've created what looks to be the perfect life. They've created the house and the apartment and the career that's so incredible, and they're out there in the world and they're powerful. They're doing things, but they do notice that inside there's this quiet ache where they're like, I don't think this is the right life for me. I don't think this is truly where I want to be in my life. I'm noticing that there's toxicity in my relationship. I'm noticing my career is not filling me up the way I thought it would. I really want to move to the next level in all of these aspects of my life, but I don't know how. And so we come together and we actually do the healing work, not only from the heartbreak that they've experienced, but to really drop down into the body and reconnect with their sensuality, their sexuality, their authenticity, to build up the self-worth and the self-love that literally changes everything in their life. And it's such incredible work. I work with some of the most incredible women in the world, so I'm so grateful to do this work.
Beautiful. And I like how, obviously bridge that, and it's exactly the work that I do as well. It's like bridging the pleasure and the sensuality and sexuality, because we go through life and obviously, building businesses, having the house, the family, we can become so much into our masculine roles.
Absolutely.
And so it's why we use pleasure, sexuality and sensuality to literally just slow down, clear some space in the schedule, just put a hold on some appointments so we can actually feel into the body. Totally. And then when we can do that, that's when we start igniting ourselves from the inside out, and the happiness and the bubbles start coming through naturally over than, trying to force the life and wondering why everything is going wrong or why we're so stressed. It's because you just need to chill out a little bit.
Totally.
Like, just chill out. Just chill out.
I mean, I think that's the thing. Like, so often people are, people can get a little confused when they're like, feminine energy, what is that? And it's like, it's actually the innate parts of you. It's the emotion, it's the sensation, it's the pleasure, it's the joy, it's the creativity. It's all of those things that are not stored up in the head, that you actually access through the body, through play, through connection with other people. And like, we almost like talk ourselves out of being able to be in our feminine energy because we simply are masculinizing it by thinking about it
in the heads. Yeah. And I feel like this, linking it back to, our topic here, this comes from searching approval and trying to show up in relationships and trying to think and to do all the things, when we can, if we can just drop that a little bit and feel into their body, it's like, okay, this relationship is really not serving me right now. Like, this lifestyle is not aligned with me. It's just like, okay, how can I heal myself? And yes, it's an uncomfortable, bumpy road, but all my clients go through this and they come out so happy on the other side.
Absolutely.
So if you are wanting more information, I'll put all the links below. If you've also got any questions, because I think there's a lot of juice in this, potentially there's a part 2. We would love to
10.
we would love to have your questions, so feel free to pop them below or to send them over. And if you feel the pull to work with Alaska, if are navigating heartbreak or going through the uncomfortability, you know where to find us. Amazing. See you next time.
Thank you so much for having me, Katie.